Hey everybody, it's Ashley. We are going to bring you 4 different crockpot meals. As long as I start something between 8 a.m. and noon-ish, that's like the best window to get this started and have it be a breeze for dinner time. A crockpot can be such a time saver. They're just a fantastic way to create some kitchen convenience. So let's get to it. Okay, this crockpot meal is going to be taco soup. I have been eyeing up taco soup for such a long time, and today's the day we're gonna throw this recipe together. I'm actually gonna use some freezer meal taco meat, which already has some taco seasoning in it and onions. And you could go, if you already had some of that, you could just throw that in and eliminate adding more taco seasoning and onion. I'm actually gonna double this recipe because I think this is more than 1 pound. So I'm gonna add in some of this red onion. I'm gonna go into one of these big cans of black beans. If it was just a single recipe, I would just put in one this size. So we're gonna do 2 of these. I'm gonna add some veggie broth, beef broth. You could always use like bouillon if that's what you have. That would be super tasty. 3 limes. Some of those look a little questionable, but we're gonna use them up. And that's it for the base recipe. I am going to probably add a little bit more taco seasoning. I was thinking maybe some smoked salt. I have this Jamaican jerk seasoning. I know that's a little bit of a different flavor profile, but I thought maybe just add a little bit. I have this fresh chopped cilantro, so I'm going to throw that in there. Onion and garlic powder. This stuff is totally optional, and there's probably not going to be that much added in when everything is said and done. If you have like a can of a diced tomato that already has green chilies in it, or if you have green chilies, that would be another really good addition to this. I don't have any green chili. So I'm gonna add these cans first so that I can use broth to rinse out these other ones. A little back and forth helps it out. All right. All right. This could not be easier. And what's so nice is that when schedules get busy, or maybe you have time earlier in the day, but things don't look as good close to dinner time, this just sits and works for you all day long, which is just so phenomenal. And you know, I'm kind of in the boat where if I do something like this and I have extra time, I have time to bake cookies. All right, so like I said, you can totally just stop there. That is so delicious, and then you can top it however you want. But I'm gonna go in with these extra things because I have them. If I didn't have them, I would just stop right there. You could totally reserve some of these too and put them on fresh. I do not like raw onions. We're gonna get all these cooked up. And I forgot to mention, but we're also gonna put in some corn. You can use canned corn, frozen corn. If you use canned corn, I recommend draining it first. Just gonna put the whole thing right on in. That is the saddest lime of the 3, but I think it'll be okay. Hey, that made quite a bit. Nice flavor too. All right. Definitely gonna go in with cilantro, and I'm gonna leave some of this. Wow, look at that. I'm not gonna use near that amount, but we can top our bowls with that too. More onion in the form of powder. And even though I added the onion to the beef and the fresh onion, you know, onion powder, even though it's made from onions, adds a different flavor. All right, and this is garlic powder. I did not add any garlic. I opted not to. A little bit of pretty good amount of taco seasoning. And then I'm just gonna go in with maybe just a teaspoon of the smoked salt. And then for this Jamaican jerk, I'm gonna do about a teaspoon as well. No, I'm gonna do a teaspoon and a half, which is about a half a tablespoon. All right, you guys, that is it. And I doubled this recipe so that we can have leftovers for dinner this week. How easy is this? It's beautiful. I feel like it's a healthy soup. You can top it with whatever you want, more lime, cheese, sour cream, tomatoes. You could dip any kind of tortilla in or tortilla chip that you have or like. Holy moly, I cannot wait to eat this. It's already midday, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my crock pot on high. Cook it for about 4 hours, and that should land us right around dinner time. Actually, that would be right before, just in case it needs a little bit more time. The only thing I'm even mildly concerned about are those onions, just because they were raw. So let's hope that they cook up really nicely, and we'll be good to go. Okay, everything's in. I've got my crock pot set to high for 4 hours, and we will see you. Okay, you guys, this next crock pot meal is super, super easy. And when I say crock pot meal, it's almost not even a crock pot meal. It's more just making something in the crock pot that can be used for so many different types of meals. So it's not just like one, it's this thing that can be used over and over and over again. It's roasting meat in a crock pot. I'm using a really big roast that I have, and it's kind of messy. We buy our meat. We get our meat directly from a farmer that we know. Okay, this meat is kind of gnarly to deal with sometimes, just because it comes in those different packages and it doesn't have those like liquid absorbers the way that the store-bought stuff does, but I'm okay with it. This roast is huge. It's a beef roast. We're probably going to use it for making French dip sandwiches. Those have become super popular in our house ever since I did them for a freezer meal. I'm going to add some beef broth right on in. And the reason I'm going to do that is because we want a lot of juices to be able to use in those French dip sandwiches. Then I'm going to go in with some seasoned salt, some garlic powder, onion powder, and then some Worcestershire. I'm starting my crock pot again, not first thing in the morning, so I want it to cook a little quicker. I think I'm gonna go 5 hours. I'm around today, so I can kind of check on it and add time if need be. It's completely thaw. Sometimes my roasts go in frozen, but today it's completely thaw. I think 5 hours is probably gonna be enough. I might bump it up to 6. We'll see. It's just gonna go, go, go. This can literally be done with any kind of meat. It can be like chicken legs, quarters, chicken breast, any kind of pork cut. It doesn't even necessarily need to be a roast. It could be pork chops, literally anything. If you're not a meat eater, you can do slow cooking with beans and incorporate them in tons of different meals. But having this protein gone through this long cooking process, you just add some veggies, starches, and you've got yourself tons of options for meals. The last thing I'll quickly mention before seeing you when this is more fully cooked is that the seasonings that I put on, again, I wanted to make this as sort of like a French, I want to make sure that we can eat this as a French dip sandwich with sort of like the broth and stuff as a dip. If you were going to go for a specific genre of cooking, then you could really customize the seasoning. So if you're going to go and wanted to do more like tacos and things like that, you could add taco seasoning, cumin, all those kinds of herbs and things like that that go well with that type of food. But because we're going to be using this for French dip sandwiches, we know for sure, I want to keep this relatively basic. And then when we go to use this, if we're going to use it in any kind of Mexican dish, I will add those seasonings at that time. Okay, I set this for 5 hours. Here we are, 2 hours left. So this is only 3 hours in, and that bone and meat have really separated. Even though that has really separated apart, I'm going to just keep letting it go. So it's definitely not going to need the 6 hours, but this is just going to get so tender and be so awesome and juicy. All right, here we are with our next crock pot meal. This one is super simple, super basic. I mean, the cost of this is so incredibly low. It is satiating and filling, and you can boost it if you want with chicken or bacon if you wanted to go in that direction, ham, or you totally don't have to. We might throw some bacon in, haven't quite decided. It's gonna be about 6 potatoes, half an onion or so, a couple cups of chicken broth, but I have some canned chicken broth downstairs, but it's already salted. And so I think what I'm going to do instead is use some home canned vegetable broth and then add in some chicken broth seasoning. I've not used this before, so I'm just going to kind of see how it goes, how much I put in. Some cheese, this is just some cheddar, and then you can use evaporated milk. I don't have any, so I'm going to go in with some powdered milk and just sort of make a thicker than normal milk using this. Okay, to peel or not to peel your potatoes, totally personal preference. I usually prefer to leave the skins on. However, these are not homegrown potatoes, and sometimes, especially these Yukon Golds, can have that green under the skin, which is an indicator that there can be some sort of, toxic compounds and things like that in the potatoes. So it's always a good idea to cut off any green that you see. I tend to just kind of play it a little easier, a little safer, and go ahead and peel these ones that have such thin skin. Also, if you see any areas of a potato that are sprouting, it can have that exact same effect. So you want to make sure that you cut away those eyes on the potato or any areas that are showing signs of sprouting. This one looks pretty darn good. Here are some tiny sprouts starting. When potatoes are exposed to light, that's what can kind of cause that. And so if potatoes are not fully buried when they're growing, it can cause that green. And that would be, of course, just from natural sunlight, but it can also happen, in the stores when the potatoes are just sitting under fluorescent lights. So it's really important that if you grow potatoes at home, that you keep them stored not only in a cool place, but a dark place, especially if they're fresh out of your garden. That's the way to keep them the longest. Keep them unwashed in a cool, dark place. As I was peeling into this last potato, I did see some green. You can kind of see the line around the outside. It is a little harder to see on these golden potatoes because that yellow is so close to green. It can be a little easier to see on a red potato or a russet potato, but these yellow ones are a little trickier, but this one was a little darker, so I could see it. I don't know if you can see that green halo around the outside. So I'm gonna peel a little extra off of this particular potato. You wanna make sure that gets all cut away. So when cutting potatoes for this soup, I'm going to cut them not super big. I am here making my lunch midday. I'm here making dinner midday again. So I want to make sure that this cooks on high and it gives all the potatoes time to thoroughly cook so they get super nice and soft and the potatoes almost start breaking apart and create a nice creaminess. All right, look at that beautiful pile of potatoes, that golden color. Okay, I did the same thing with the raw onion because I want to make sure. I can't see because I'm crying from these onions. I want to make sure that all these have time to fully incorporate their wonderful flavor cooked into this meal. Okay, that's literally all we have to put in. The broth, onions, potatoes. We're gonna add the milk and the cheese after it's been cooking for a while. But because we don't even have everything submerged, and I actually needed to put just a little bit more liquid in here. I think we're shy by just a little bit. And then some of the onions and potatoes will release moisture as well. And when you're cooking in a slow cooker, there's not a lot of evaporation that happens the same way when you're cooking on the stove. So I'm thinking this is gonna be good. I'm gonna go ahead and get this started. Okay, so high, I have it set for 5 hours. I'm hoping that, like the roast, it'll be done sooner. Okay, so I went ahead and mixed up my evaporated milk substitute, and basically all it is powdered milk and water. I have a lot of powdered milk at our house here because it is great to have for using in recipes like this. And then you don't take out of your normal milk supply. It is fantastic for food storage because it lasts so long in its powdered form. We purchase it already powdered. We don't powder it ourselves. When you buy it from a shelf-stable manufacturer, then they are oftentimes already packed and ready to go for long-term food storage. And I actually threw the one away that this was stored in, but it's stored in a Mylar bag, so it's very shelf stable for long-term. And it already, you know, has the oxygen absorber and all of that. So it's fantastic to keep around for emergencies and food storage purposes, but also situations like this where, you know what, I don't have evaporated milk and I didn't want to buy a can of it. And there's also some questionable ingredients in that stuff. So here we have it, just the milk. And I'm going to put this in the fridge. Once this is done with the timing, you know, I'll kind of watch it. I'm around again today, so we'll see how it looks in a few hours. I'm going to add the cheese and the milk. It'll cook for a little longer and we will be done. I did almost forget a little bit of pepper. So I'm going to put maybe half a teaspoon of pepper in there. I don't know about you, but there is something about pepper and potatoes that is so delicious. That should be good for now. Okay, this has been going for about 4 hours and 15 minutes. I'm going to stop it here. And I'm going to add in my home mixed evaporated milk just as my thickener. I did end up making a little bacon, so I chopped it up really finely. And then I'm also going to add my cheese. I'll get it stirred up and let it cook a little longer. Okay, we are here for the fourth and final crock pot meal of this series, and we are going to be doing a chicken veggie coconut curry. I was thinking it would be kind of nice to do something that's a non-soup, non-sort of meat, long, slow cook roasting, because those things you can just take in any direction. There's so many recipes for all different kinds of things like that. So while this is going to be a little, you know, soupy, saucy, it is slightly different. So I thought that would be kind of a fun thing to do. So in my Instant Pot, actually, I have some chicken going that I had marinating in the freezer, needed to use it up, clear out space. Great time to do that. But this recipe is so customizable. It can almost be like a way to clear out a bunch of vegetables, and you can literally throw anything in it, from vegan, you use beans, rotisserie chicken, leftover meat, anything can be used. This is what I decided to put in today. Some half onions that I had in my fridge. I wanted a little potato in there, but not too much, so I just peeled a single potato. And then I have various carrots from various points in time, and I'm just going to throw a bunch of this in there. And then these are the main sauces that I put in my coconut curry. A soy sauce of some kind variety, a roasted red chili paste, red curry paste, and then coconut milk of choice. I would like to know, what is your favorite way to use a crock pot? If you'd like to see more of what comes out of my kitchen, please subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we will see you soon.